Welcome to the ActsSocial Podcast. Thank you to our generous corporate sponsors of Abundant Television, Hobby Lobby, and Grand Canyon University. Without the help of our generous sponsors, ActsSocial would not.
All right. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another episode on the ActsSocial Podcast. I was just kind of joking around with our next two guests who I cannot wait to get to here that we should probably call this the Message in the Mess podcast, because all of our guests have seemingly, God has sent them through situations in their life. And unfortunately, we learn our best and we become closer to Him through a lot of these hard times. Unfortunately, but fortunately, these persecutions are actually what make us. And all our guests are like this, but I'm really excited today to show today's story and just how God works in lives and how amazing He is at His story building. Because we look back decades back and realize, oh my goodness, it's not that I'm happy that happened, but I am who I am, and I've done my ministry today because of this. So it's those stories that we delve into in this ActsSocial podcast. So I want to jump straight into it because today I have Deana and Lizzie from Surviving Toxic Relationships podcast, and it is a extremely powerful podcast that I would like to, at the end, we're going to give you more information on it, but I'd like to direct a lot of our users to it because there's God's working miracles in many places, and theirs is no exception. It's pretty awesome. So thank you so very much, guys, for coming on. And you can take turns. I don't know who's first here. This is my first 3-session one, so I don't know who to look at here. But take turns and tell us a little bit about you and your background. Here in a little bit, we'll dig into story.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having us as your guest on
Absolutely.
your third podcast. It's pretty exciting. We're so excited for you.
Yeah, thanks. Blessed to have you guys. Yeah.
Thanks. Deana, did you want to go ahead and start?
Yep, I'll take it away. So our story is kind of crazy. It's really crazy, in fact. So Lizzie and I were married to the same toxic, sexually addicted, financially abusive, manipulative, lying, you name it, gaslighting narcissist. And I was married to him first for 27 years. And then she married him second. So we will talk about how we met, in a minute, but I'll go ahead and talk about just my part of the story first, because the way we met was amazing. We didn't know each other. He went on to marry somebody else. And, but that's a whole nother story about how our podcast got started. But I will just say I met him at a very young age. I was only 17. I was still a senior in high school. And he happened to be someone who went to my high school and was about 2 years older than me. But I didn't know him because he was in the, super popular jock kind of guy circles. Yeah. And I was not at all popular. So I didn't really know him. But I was close to graduating high school, and I went to a church function where I served at a church. And he kind of meandered in. And my best friend that was with me, she knew him from high school. And so he saw her and he came over and he kind of started mingling with her. Now, he didn't go to church. He was just in town. He was bored. He heard music from the street and just kind of wandered in to see what was happening. And it was like immediate sparks. Like we just fell head over heels. Of course, remember, I'm 17 years old. He's 19 years old.
Yeah. Been there, done that, but yeah.
Yeah. But immediately he's telling me all the things that I want to hear. He's a Christian, he's, a wonderful guy, like all these things. And since he went to my high school and he was familiar, it didn't seem like anything scary, like anything I should worry about. Right. But immediately there were red flags. Immediately, in no time at all, I found out that he had actually had a girlfriend in another town, and it didn't come from him. The information came from somebody else, but he had been dating her at age 18, and she was married. She was probably in her early 20s, and he was best friends or good friends with her husband, played basketball with her husband, and he fell for her, and the two of them started having an affair. So here I am at 17 years old, but at this point, I didn't know they'd actually had an affair. The story came out that he had been dating her, even though she was married, and me being so naive didn't process it. So multiple things like that. And in the meantime, I'm feeling pressure that we should, make our relationship more serious, because that's what narcissists do. That's one of the first red flags that you should always look out for. If you are dating somebody and they are really quick to want to put a ring on it or move in, or have kids or do anything that ties you to them, and they're really pushing that.
Yeah.
Be very, very careful, because any relationship you're in, you should really take your time to get to know that person and their family and everybody else. Naive, didn't know. Got married. Immediately there are red flags after getting married. And, a very long story short, I don't want to go into all the details because there are a lot of details that are probably pretty hefty for your show that I don't want to share. But
Understood.
a lot of ended up being, a lot of pornography and illicit sexual relationships and things like that throughout the marriage. But what would happen is every time I would catch him at something, there was this incredible amount of sobbing and weeping, and God loves me, and he wants the best for me. I'm just trapped in this lifestyle. I don't know what to do. And so he would run to a pastor or someone that we trusted in our church. And we would go to counseling with that pastor, and that pastor would, explain to me that he was just caught in this sin, but he was a good man and he loved me. And as we started having children, the language was, he loves his family. He doesn't want to do this. We're going to help him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he would only stay in these counseling situations for just maybe a month or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he didn't really care to go back, because once I was back with him, because I kept leaving when I would discover things, I would leave.
Yeah.
Once I was back, suddenly the incentive to get himself better just went away.
Yeah. The humbleness left after you were back. Yeah.
The repentance, the humble, all of that left. Yeah. So it ended up becoming a repeating cycle where I would leave him about every 3 years. And since we were married 27, I ended up leaving him 9 times. And I mean, packing up the kids. We end up having 4 children, packing up the little ones, going to my mom's house, completely moving out and leaving. And sure enough, he would use every tactic that we now understand today. Back then, there was no such thing even as sexual addiction. So I didn't have any idea what I was dealing with. But he would use every tactic, like the flying monkeys, which is using all of your friends, the pastor that you respect, your mom,
I haven't heard
your
that.
sister.
That's really good. I see. I understand that now. Yeah.
It's a very popular term for a narcissist where they go to people that you love and they plead on their behalf, or they twist the whole story to make it look like it wasn't really their fault or they didn't mean to. And they use other people to convince you to go back or that it wasn't that bad. So many, many, many vices that he used. Even sometimes he would use our children. He would sob in front of our children and say, "Mommy's leaving me. Please tell her not to leave me." And, at one point, my little boy was 4 years old, and he was grabbing my little son and just sobbing and like, "Please don't let mommy leave me. Please, mommy's leaving. She's not going to come back." And of course, my little 4-year-old is hysterically sobbing and like, "Mommy, don't leave daddy." So he would use the most hideous tactics to pull me back in. And that would be called hoovering, to hoover me back in. And
yes, got that one too.
I just have to say, we make every chance we get to educate while we tell our story.
Yeah, no, this is good. I'm going to have a good education going back. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who's been with a narcissist and has done even a minute of studying knows all these terms. But so he used all those tactics, which, at the time you're so confused because, and here's the thing, Shawn, as a Christian, as a mom, as someone who loves the Lord and doesn't believe in divorce and does believe that God heals and does believe that God answers prayer and does believe that God does not want a family to be ripped apart and believes that God can do anything if a person is really willing to change. When you come into this kind of relationship, that adds to the complete brain confusion. The fact that, I'm praying, I'm believing, he says he's praying and believing, he's doing all the right things, And God doesn't want us to break up. He does not want us to not be a family.
Yeah.
He wants this. And I even had many opportunities to minister to other women that were in these same situations because I, ended up connecting with different people that had gone through this. And there was such a need for women to hear that they're not crazy and that, that understanding. But again, they were also so confused as to, I've done everything right. I've done everything according to the word. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And God's not making this relationship better. In fact, it might be even getting worse. And so I think that's the part that is the hardest as a woman of faith. Is that you truly feel and trust that God's going to come in and intervene in this relationship as long as you do what you're supposed to do as a wife. And you don't really think about the fact that God doesn't intervene in somebody's free will and just make them right, because you prayed about it.
And he knows your heart, and he knows for a fact you've turned the cheek 70 times 70 and even more. You've given it your all. It's no few weeks of trying type of stuff. So he knows your heart. So you're good. Sorry, I chimed in there. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I want you to. Yeah. No, definitely.
That was a good jumping in. I like that one.
Oh,
Thanks. He does know your heart.
Yeah, he knows your heart. Yeah, exactly. And he knew his heart too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because over the 27 years, I constantly sought counsel from, wise women of God, wise men of God, even therapists, anybody I could find that could give me some counsel. And out of all of the counselors that we had, there was only one Christian man who literally told me, he said, the man you're married to is not a Christian. He's not. He has no fruits of the Spirit. And he asked me, does he show love? Does he show kindness, patience, long-suffering? Does he show these things to you on a regular basis, but he's just caught in a trap of his own, design that he just can't get out of? And I had to be really honest. He was not loving. He was not kind. He was not patient. He was not long-suffering. He had zero fruits of the Spirit. Zero. Matter of fact, he was always moody and angry, and I never knew what to expect from him. And he was mean to the kids. And, he was obviously in this complete mental, oppression that he was dealing with all the time.
Yeah.
But he was the only one.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had demons. Yeah. And of course he was in a bad mood. Yeah. He never knew his true self because he never got rid of the demons on that. So I get that.
Right. And yet he had all these resources to do so. He had all these people that were in his corner. Like, we're here to help you. Just reach out. Like, if you're getting tempted, if you need help, we can help you. We will hold you up. And he had all these resources. And he just, as soon as I came back to him and he didn't need that anymore, he didn't use it. And another thing that I learned as well is that he was never repentant until he got caught. So that's another huge red flag. If you are with somebody in a relationship and the only time that they are crying and apologizing and promising to do better is after they are caught, that is not repentance.
Right.
That is not repentance. If they truly are broken and contrite over what they've done to you and their family, it will keep them up at night. They will have to come to you in the middle of it and say, my heart is killing me. Like, I'm doing these things and I know what it's doing to my family and I know what it's doing to myself and I know what I'm doing to my God.
Yeah.
That never happened once. So huge red flag. Keep that in mind, all of you that are listening.
Definitely.
If they're coming to you after the fact, they're just manipulating to get you back.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so basically it came to, he actually ended up checking himself into a live-in program that was 6 months long, Christian live-in program that was meant for sexual addiction, that was designed to really do a deep intensive to help people get out of this sexual addiction. And I remember at the time I was already signing divorce papers when he made that decision.
I bet.
And I was so proud of him. And I had a tiny little bit of hope for the first time that maybe if he was willing to leave his job and actually go away out of state, and go into this program.
6 months is a good stint. Yeah.
6 months. that we had some hope. And he did. He finished the entire program. It was extremely hard on our family because at that point, I just did daycare in my home. So the money was always really, really tight. But it was worth it. The kids and I buckled down, did what we had to do. And then he came back, and it seemed like, oh my goodness, it seemed like I had a new husband. I had all this hope, everything just changed. And it was probably really, really good for about 3 years. 3 years. It was absolutely amazing. And by this point, the kids are starting getting older. They started moving out and, finding their own way in life. And
which changes marriage dynamics when that happens.
Right. So we ended up having just actually no kids at home anymore. And I truly felt in my heart that God had listened to us, because I'd always really believed with my entire being that we were going to be in ministry together, that we were going to minister to couples that had gone through this. We were going to be that one couple that had made it through. That's what I believed. And I was like, we're there. We're there. We're going to have a ministry. We'll just wait for God to open it up. It's going to happen. And he and I were heading to this trip because we had a daughter that was getting married, and we were heading on a trip to meet the new in-laws. And we were so excited. And this phone call comes across his cell phone. And of course, he's driving. So I answered it. And it's a woman. And I could hear traffic noise. So I knew it wasn't a sales call or anything like that. And so when I answered, she said immediately, "Who is this?" And I said, "Oh, you called me. Who's this?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, who is this?" And I said, no. You need to tell me who you are.
Yeah.
And she immediately hung up. And I looked at the call, and it was from a blocked number. And, always throughout our marriage, I always had that kind of sick, nauseous gut feeling whenever something was off, and whenever it was like the Holy Spirit was like, you need to pay attention to this. And I had that feeling. I just knew in my heart of hearts that whatever this woman was, this was not a good thing.
Right.
And so I looked at him and explained to him what happened.
Yeah.
And then he immediately starts backpedaling. I haven't done anything for years. I would never do anything. Like, this is not me. I have no idea where that came from. And I'm like, okay. Because what can you do? If they say they haven't done it and you have no proof, you have to let go. But the next day, or a couple days later, after we had left the weekend and I came back home, when he went to work, I got on his computer and started doing a deep search.
Good.
And somehow, some way, I found an email account that he used. And interestingly, his password was the name of the when he went away for 6 months. He used the password as that name of that company that helped him get past his sexual addiction. He used that to remind himself to stay pure. And he had this secret email account, and he used that password. And so I plugged in that password of the place that redeemed him. And sure enough, it opened up. And right then and there was all the evidence I needed. He had multiple emails to Craigslist trying to get women to come and give him sexual favors. And it was ironically he would go on trips with my father. They would go on trips together to football games and, all these award type of programs for any kind of sports. And they would do this maybe once every couple of months. Well, he would get the hotel, because I started looking at the charges, and I saw, this is when he went with my dad and he got this hotel. Well, he would get the hotel before my dad got there and use the hotel for these kinds of events. Yeah.
Wow.
And at that point, it was so interesting because it was literally like God was like, "Deana, you're done.
Yeah.
I am giving you so much peace."
Yeah.
No emotions, absolute incredible peace that you are free. You are released. You have hung in there, because every time these things happened, I would hit my knees. I would cry out to God, and I would ask him, tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. If you have a plan for me in this relationship, I will stay if you want me to stay, but it is torture. Please let me go. But God would always give me this peace to stay.
Yeah.
And this time it was literally like, it's your time to go.
Yeah.
And there was nothing he could have said or done. He tried every way to push my buttons. He threatened suicide. He tracked me and stalked me to anywhere I would go and was just sobbing and begging me to take him back. Everything he could possibly do, he did. And it was like, I was free. I was finally free.
Yeah.
And so that's where it came to an end. Now, I don't want to make the audience think that God can't do miracles and God can't deliver your partner from something that you're going through, because he can. But I also want to give a lot of caution that if your partner is not truly aligned with the Lord, if they are not truly a Christ follower, and a good man or woman, they might just be playing you. They might just be playing the game. And it's so important to truly dive into the fruit of the Spirit and see, are they even a Christian at all? Or are they making your life so difficult, and that of your children, that you are constantly at dis-ease, you are constantly confused, you are constantly depressed or sad or terrified. That is not the peace of God in your home and just someone that is repentant and trying to change.
Yeah, walking on pins and needles in a marriage like that. So, wow. That's almost that's Lizzie, before we get to your part, I want to back up just a little bit, because this is almost I know it can't be, but is there such a thing as a trained professional narcissist? You guys were young, and it's almost like he was had been through training camps on how to do this right, to go into the church where, obviously there's a trust level there that could be easily taken advantage of for teenagers, in church. At any point, a teenager, but you add church into that and they're like, oh, he walked into church. Because those going to church, are hopefully, not always, but, a lot of young girls and boys they have a soft heart. They're there already because they have a soft heart, a soft, loving heart. So it's that much easier. And for him to be able to identify that at such an early age and just start to dig in, by the time you hit into 20s, he's already an expert at it. That's a weird word to say with that.
He was already a perpetrator.
Yeah, already at that age. And to be, you don't want to say good, but he was good at it. He was good at being bad with that. And that's disturbing.
It really is. And honestly, it's interesting because as Lizzie and I meet more and more women and men who've been through this, there's such similarities. These people are so good. Like you just said, they're so good. And I feel like they learn these manipulation tactics very, very young. Probably from, they probably learn it by manipulating their parents, to getting things that they want. And
was he a salesman? Odd question, but what did he do for a living? Was he a salesman?
No, he worked. When we started out early marriage, he did odd jobs, but then he ended up working at the prison. He worked as a correction officer at the prison, and he really understood the minds of those inmates. He was good at it because he really connected with those inmates and understood them, which meant they didn't get away with anything with him. He was that good at it. But it's because, looking back, it's because he had that same brain and desire, and compulsion.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Miss Lizzie, I would like to pick up where this transition took place. I'm sure the audience is on pins and needles because we feel like we're reading a fictional book or something, or the making of an upcoming movie or something. But yeah.
It'll be cool to see how God does all this, because when I met him, supposedly he had been separated and divorced for 2 years. Same thing. We met on a Christian dating site. I had already been single 14 years. I was a single mom with 4 boys. Their dad was abusive in all more of the horrific ways, I think. And so he was completely out of their life. So I was just kind of doing it all on my own, or with the help of the Lord.
I know.
And then I met him, and it was like we prayed together. He was like, I want a relationship with you. I'm not looking for anything short term. So all of his wooing of me and my heart was taking me to church, praying with me, taking the boys to their games, all the things, going grocery shopping with me or help doing the grocery shopping when he was able. And then my dad was also a pastor, and he was a man who was very discerning. And he thought he was a great guy because they would sit and do men's Bible study every Friday because he was off on Fridays and my dad was off on Fridays. And while I was at work, they would do Bible studies. I mean, for a Christian woman, you're like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
We were married, short time again, 6 months. We got married within 6 months of knowing each other. Again, red flag. There have been some great marriages that have survived those type of, short span.
Yeah.
My parents were one of them. But, in today's day and age,
Yeah.
well, in today's day and age, it's so sad because it happens so fast with these narcissists. They just want to sweep you off your feet. They know how he immersed in my life was the fact that he didn't bring anybody in. So he just did everything that was special to me or meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So he knew how to woo me. And I always told Deana later on that she must have put him through, he went through so much counseling that he knew enough, he knew more stuff to put in his arsenal, so to speak.
Yeah. She educated him a lot.
Yeah, he went through boot camp with Deana for sure. And, I think I got the good stuff because mine was a little different. And I think too, again, I don't think I was present because he just knew how to make me comfortable enough. But after we got married, we moved around quite a bit. And then I think it was 6 years later, we came back from a 2-month motorcycle trip. And it was probably one of the best summers I had because I'm a school teacher. So I always had the summers off. And so all of a sudden it got really weird. And then he'd be like, I'm leaving Sunday to go pray with somebody and work on our marriage. And I was like, I didn't know anything was wrong with our marriage. I thought we were just fine.
Yeah.
And it just got really weird. And then he locked me out of my cell phone. Like I couldn't look at numbers or anything else. I got locked out of different things of like credit cards and things like that. It was just like, I was just being cut out and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on because I thought we were okay.
Yeah.
And then one day I felt the Lord because he ended up leaving for a weekend retreat up to the mountains to pray. And my sister happened to be in town and I looked at her and I said, I'm leaving. I can't because he would not open the door for me to meet anybody that he was meeting with, which is a huge red flag. But when you're in a relationship and you think it's okay, you're like, what happened? I couldn't tell at that point what happened. I just knew something was wrong.
Right.
And at that point, I didn't have divorce in my brain at all. I just knew because my first marriage was fraught with a lot of turmoil. I just knew that it was heading in that direction.
Yeah, you could
and
see it
so
quick. Yeah.
I packed what I needed. My sister helped me move to, just a little house not too far. And I thought, okay, maybe our marriage will make it. Because at this point, Deana and I didn't know each other. We knew who each other were, obviously, because I was her kid's, stepmom.
Right.
And then the next thing I know, when I asked him to let me have, access to our phone bill, he said, nope. I said, so are you seeing somebody? And he said, well, so what if I am? I'm like, I'm your wife of 6 years and you're saying that to me? At that point, I knew that it was over. I knew it was okay for me to let go, which was really hard because I think at that point I really struggled with having 2 divorces because I grieved over the marriages, not the men anymore, but the symbolism of what marriage is. I think it's one of the most beautiful things God talks about in the Word. Just the symbolisms and everything. Yeah. And then come to find out, 5 days after our divorce was final, I went back into the house for the first time to get my things that were kind of listed out in our divorce papers. I went by myself, which my therapist was like, that was really dumb. But I did pull my stuff and I found cards from another woman with dates on them while we were living together. It was like God just said, open them, because it looked like my writing. I thought there may be cards that I sent. It looked identical to me. And there were letters from this other woman. And I knew she was a Christian. And at that moment, God laid 3 things on my heart immediately. Number 1, I was meant to get that divorce, because even to the last hour that I walked in front of the judge, I went by myself. He begged me not to divorce him. And that's really hard, because I thought, why am I divorcing this person? But there was no shadow of a doubt that I was doing the right thing. So that point when I found those cards, it was like, yes, I was meant to divorce. Number 2, she's a child of God. And she has no idea that I existed, because you could tell in the letters that she wrote. And then number 3, I'm going to tell my story to the world.
Awesome.
Because to protect other women who may be in these situations. And it's really hard, because in the Christian faith, I know Deana kind of touched a bit about it. We've seen so many people who have gone through this walk, who've married someone from the church, and it was disastrous. And they felt like person was safe. They felt the place that they met this person was safe. And so we've seen so many people that turned away from the Lord, and then they don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's not just on those relationships. It's sometimes just friends in the church just turn people off, and they don't go back because they got burned from, especially who's supposed to be your best friend, especially. It
was pretty traumatic. And at that point, when I got the name of this person, the first person I called was Deana, and I'm like shaken. I think I was in shock. And she said, well, first of all, pretty much I need to get out of the house. And I did. I got what I could, and I left the house. And then Deana, and I think one of her daughters went on a quest to find this person, to warn her. Whether she wanted to believe us or not, that was okay. But I felt like if she was a child of God and she had no idea I existed, don't ask me how I knew it. I just knew it. And that she needed to know. And then we prayed for her. We searched for her. This was April 25th, 2019. So now we're going to fast forward to July 1st. I think it was July 1st, July 15th or something like that.
In 2020.
Then Deana gets this phone call.
Oh.
You want to share your phone call real quick, Deana?
Yeah. So like Lizzie said, we became friends right after she was leaving. And my son had called me and said, Mom, Lizzie's leaving Dad. I think she's leaving, and you should call her. And so I did, and I told her everything. And I'd already, I'd always kind of been tortured a little bit about the fact that I didn't tell her about him, but I didn't know her from Adam, and my kids knew that he'd been lying to her from the beginning, because he told her that we'd been divorced for a couple years and we weren't even divorced. And he told her that I lived in a different state and I lived right in the same state, things like that. So the kids were like, Mom, you should really tell this new lady, what's going on with Dad. But I just felt like there's no way she's going to believe me. She's going to think I'm the crazy ex, and then it's going to be awkward. She's going to be the stepmom to my kids. It's going to be weird. So we had never spoken until that day. And
we still can't stop talking.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
though.
so we just bonded immediately, because obviously we had so much in common, and I had so much to tell her, and it really helped. I know it helped validate her feelings about everything, and of course what she was going through helped validate me, what I went through with him. It was just incredible. But anyway, so once she found those cards and letters and pictures, and we set out to find this poor woman, knowing that he was going to marry her immediately as soon as Lizzie and his divorce were final. At that point, it took us a while to catch up to her, and we finally just gave up. So I sent her a quick message in her Facebook, even though we weren't Facebook friends. You can just kind of send a message and hope they find it. And so I sent a message, and it was very basic. It just said, listen, Jane, we call her Jane. If you find this message, Lizzie and I just want you to know that we can tell by your profile that you are a wonderful woman, that you are not a cheater, that you would not date a married man. And we didn't see him in her profile picture, so we didn't know if she was still with him or not. But I just said, if you are still with him and if you have any questions, we just want you to know we're here for you and we don't blame you one bit, but we are here. Please feel free to reach out. So weeks and weeks go by, I hear nothing, and I kind of let it go. And I'm on my way to a speaking engagement that I'm supposed to be speaking at. And of course, I'm not prepared. And I'm in a hurry. And all of a sudden, this call comes across my phone in the car.
That's a horrible time to get a call like that.
That was the worst time ever because I was speaking in front of like hundreds of people for a breast cancer awareness event. And all of a sudden I get this call and I'm like, don't answer it, don't answer it, don't answer it. Nope, I had to answer it. And so there's this woman's voice and she sounds very confused. And she said, hi. She said, listen, I got this really strange message in a really weird place in Facebook. I just need to clarify what's going on here. And I said, okay, so you know who I am, right? She said, yes, I know who you are. I said, okay. I said, and she goes, you're Deana. I know about your kids. I know you're married to Rex. I know all that. And she said, but who is Lizzie? And I said, oh,
convenient. Yeah.
Okay. Lizzie is his second wife. And she's like, what? I can just hear the panic rising in her voice. Yeah. She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean his second wife? You were the last wife he had like 6 or 7 years ago. I said, no, I wasn't.
Defense.
He has a wife. And so now she's really panicking. And she's like, where did she live? And I said, she lived in, this certain town, which was a couple towns away from them. And she's like, when did they get divorced? I said, they only got divorced a few months ago. She's like, you mean that little house where he's taking care of the little old man and lady? Was that really his wife's house? And I said, he wasn't taking care of a little old man and lady. That was he and his wife's house. And then she gets even more panicky. And she said, you mean this red coat I'm wearing right now? That wasn't a gift from the little old lady. That was his wife's coat? And I'm like, probably. I don't know anything about the coat, but probably. So she's now freaking out because he's on a motorcycle trip with her son. She has a grown son, and they took off out of state on a motorcycle trip. And she's getting these waves of realization that she doesn't even know who this man is anymore. Yeah. And he's got her child with him.
Child protection mode.
Yes. Yeah, and so bear. She's now in full on panic mode and, just needs to know all these questions and have all these answers. And so finally I get a hold of Lizzie and I'm like, okay, Lizzie, you're going to have to talk to her. You're going to have to correlate times and events and different things because at this point they had been together for just under a year and they had just married. And when I left that message weeks earlier, what was it, like a day, Lizzie?
It was the day after that Deana left the message that they had gotten officially married in the church, during the church service.
Yeah.
Wow,
so if she found that message.
That holy water should have boiled. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Amen, brother. Yeah. So, she'd already been married, for a couple of months. And when she found this, and I tell you, she was a little sassy, little strong lady that we both admire so much. And as soon as she found out, she basically knew everybody in town, small town. She knew everybody in town. And when he came home with her son, she had a police escort. She had his car packed up to the gills with all of his things. She had a restraining order and an annulment and a court date. And basically he got off the motorcycle and was handed all of these things. And that was it. So
good for her. Yeah.
But then he ran off and married wife number 4 immediately in another state. And it was a friend of the family in another state. And just immediately just married another woman and completely bamboozled her as well. And Jane went and did what we did and got a hold of her on Facebook and said, you don't understand who this is. You don't understand what you're getting into. You have to know. And unfortunately, this woman just kind of said, jump off a bridge, like, you're crazy. So,
oh my gosh.
Sadly, yeah. But that's how crazy these people can be. And unfortunately, there are so many of them, and they are serial perpetrators. They go from family to family to family, or woman to woman, or man to man, and they do these things, and they leave this trail of chaos.
Right.
And, so many
For
times
years.
people,
Yeah.
and people just aren't speaking up. And so that's when Lizzie basically kind of took me by the ear and was like, "You're doing this with me?" We're
Deana
telling
didn't
our
have
story.
a choice, because I was like, I knew this is what God wanted us to do right off the start. I don't think Deana and I would have ever thought that God would have brought such a beautiful friendship from something so ugly, but we've learned that's just how God does it. And it's so hard, because who really wants to go into toxic relationship conversations as a Christian? It's so hard to be there. And I think there was a time Deana and I like, is this really what we were supposed to do? Because it wears on you, because sometimes we have to relive, emotionally. And we were kind of like on the edge of, do we go with the secular world, so we welcome everybody? Do we go on the Christian? I mean, we were just riding a strange fence. And we went to a Christian writers conference not too long ago. And when someone found out, because when you go to a Christian writers conference, if anybody knows, you have people that write devotionals, or they write Bible studies and children's books. And then people would say, well, what are you writing? Toxic relationships. But
they don't know where to put you at there.
One of the publishers is like, you don't understand. This is a huge need. We need people who are faith-based that will be willing to talk the hard stuff in this type of thing. And, Deana and I, all the times that we were triggered in the past, I don't think we're triggered anymore, because I think we finally let go of the fact that possibly we want to make everybody feel welcome, right? I mean, I think that's kind of where you and I talk too, Shawn, that we just have a passion to reach everybody. But it also means that you have to be very direct of where you're going, like what your focus is, who you're trying to please out there in the world. And if people don't know, how can you direct them in the right path? And as Deana and I both learned, a lot of people in the toxic relationship realm, they talk a lot about the meditation, which as a Christian, meditation could be very important. Or they talk about things like a lot of new age stuff. We had like witches reaching out to us and stuff. And we were like, okay, this is not us. But how can you have people try to heal if you don't bring Christ in the center of the healing component? I couldn't talk about healing without talking about my faith. It just doesn't mix.
It's let go, let God. It's just, it flows. Yeah, it absolutely does. Wow. So many questions for another podcast, I guess. We can stay on in a couple more hours on this, but we're a little bit out of time, pushing over, but it's perfectly fine. So I think where I really want to talk to this is really talk to the audience, because I know it's the cool thing is how God works is, even though some of the listeners may not personally be going through this, that women amongst women have sometimes hunches that other women might be going through something like that, and can introduce, you guys are a resource. The Surviving Toxic Relationships is an actual Christian resource. So, it's so easy to refer over and say, oh, this new podcast I've been listening to, is so interesting. And for them to be able to hear that and to be able to start making a stand. So even though the person listening may not be, it's so big of a reach, beyond that. Because I believe you, even though I am astounded and floored at how anyone can have that much of I just want to chunk it as a mental disability is kind of what I want to say, for that. I'm amazed by that, but the audience is there, and people of people, have those layers there and know that others are going through that. So I just want to announce to everybody, we're going to have links and stuff in our podcast to you guys, obviously, but even a quick Google search, pulling it up, does that. But we're going to put the links in there, and we're going to direct people over, because what we've given everybody right now for 40-ish minutes or something like that, what we've given everybody is still, I'm sure the 20,000 foot view and your podcast episodes are really what dissects a lot of stuff that actually brings the true help and healing, through Christ's love with that. So that's what I want to direct. And do you guys want to add anything else for closing out while we, close things out and direct the audience into you guys?
I would like to say something because, like you were saying about people, sometimes they go, well, I don't know anybody in this type of situation. I'm just going to say 4 people die a death because of a domestic partner. And most of the time, it's not because there was physical violence. It's because of situations like I was in first and second marriage, because even my second husband had a gun, threatened suicide. He could have, when they lose control. So I always say, it's important to educate yourself on the signs, create certain things, which we do talk about exit plans and how to support people they may think may be in abusive situations. And I want to say it's really important to me on a personal level, because I lost a good friend from domestic violence. He was never physical, but when she realized it was time to go, she said, I'm leaving. And the only thing I said, she texted me the night before, hey, please pray for me, because I really think, my husband knows I'm getting ready to leave. And everything was like DL, like down low. And I found out the next day that he killed her and then killed himself. And so it's very real, and it hits us when we least expect it. And I always use the analogy of, it's good to educate ourselves, because we don't get life insurance because we think we're going to die. We get it so that we're ready to protect those we love. This may not be the same as a life insurance, but it is if it could be your friend or a family member that could be killed or something worse.
That's a super valid point. So I'm going to change that up just a little bit on what I said earlier and say, even if you do or don't know someone, coming on to the podcast and taking those bite-sized pieces that you guys offer, it's an education, and it makes people aware out of that. So that's an awesome point. Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. And I just have a really quick thing to say. I just want to say that, all that 27 years and all the hell and the hardship and the pain, I would not trade it for anything. And when God is with you, He will take you through those valleys. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying you want to be there. He will take that and He will literally turn it around for something so incredibly beautiful in your life. Like, you will have this light inside of you and this wisdom and this cool water to offer for other people that are thirsty and confused. So if you're going through something like this, doesn't have to be necessarily a relationship, could be any hardship, just know that there is incredible purpose in your pain, and He's not left you, even though it feels like it. There's something on the other side, and it is literally beauty for ashes. And I want to encourage people with that. There's amazing beauty in what God allows you to go through, especially when you hit your knees and give it to Him.
That's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. God is so good. He is so good. And you know what? The hardships that they may or may not be going through right now, if that applies to them, that is a ton of pain for them. But what if on the other side, the lives they save from it? You're right. Of course you wouldn't regret it, because
and it may not look the way you think. It may not look the way you think, because I thought God was going to heal us and we were going to have a marriage ministry. That is what I held on to that whole time. It didn't look the way I thought, but God still used it. So don't put yourself or God in a box when you're looking for that outcome.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Oh my goodness. Deana, Lizzie, thank you so very much for being a guest on our show. And I know that out of our users that we're going to be broadcasting this out to, that we're going to be blessing lives with your story as well, and directing them back over to your show to learn, more about this and really get deeper into the conversation, especially. So thank you so very much for coming on with us today.
Thank you, Shawn. We appreciate it.
Thank you. What a blessing. Okay. Thanks, and bye for now, everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye.